back more than 3 millennia, Greek civilization has been a fertile land of thought, inquiry, and explorations with rich contributions. One of the great lands where we can see schools and movements that have been pioneers in shaping the philosophical landscape. In this segment, we explore two major periods of Greek philosophy, pre-Socratic and classical periods, both times equally brilliant, showcasing diverse traditions in thinking and rational inquiry. The evolution of Greek thought can be traced through a succession of schools and movements, each building upon or reacting against its predecessors. These thinkers, during the pre-Socratic period, shifted from mythological explanations of the world to rational ones, primarily asking what the universe is made of, referred to as the Arche or the first principle. Thales of Miletus, born 6th century BC, considered the first Western philosopher, posted that the water is the fundamental principle, Arche, of all things. He famously predicted a solar eclipse in 585 BC. Thales attempted to find naturalistic explanations of the world without referencing the supernatural. He explained earthquakes by imagining that the earth floats on water and earthquakes occur when waves rock the earth. He founded the Milesian school. Anaximander of Miletus, born in the 6th century BC, was a student of Thales. He continued the Milesian school with his materialist philosophy. He proposed the apeiron, the boundless or the indefinite, as the Arche, a more abstract principle than water, from which opposites like hot and cold separate out. Anaximenes, born in the 5th century BC, was a student of Anaximander. He continued the tradition of the Milesian school as the materialist position, argued that the air is the Arche, explaining the generation of different substances through processes of condensation and rarefaction. Pythagoras of Samos, born in 570 BC, based his philosophy on dualism. He believed that the number is the ultimate reality and that the cosmos is a harmonious system. He taught reincarnation as a transmigration of souls and founded a quasi-religious community with strict rules. Heraclitus of Ephesus, born in 535 BC, based his philosophy on materialistic monism. He's famous for the doctrine of universal flux, summarized in the phrase pantarei. Everything flows, nothing stands still. You cannot step into the same river twice, since neither man nor the river are the same. Posted that reality is a unity of opposites governed by the logos, divine reason or governing principle, and identified fire as the Arche element. Born in 515 BC, Parmenides of Elea is widely regarded as the founder of ontology. Parmenides held the opposite view of reality. According to Parmenides, true reality is a single, unchanging, eternal, and indivisible entity. This fundamental being, also called what is distinct from the ever-changing world of appearances, which is perceived through unreliable senses and considered an illusion. True knowledge and understanding of reality are attained not through sensory experience, but through pure reason. Empedocles, born in 495 BC, postulated reality made up of 4 eternal elements: earth, air, fire, and water, which he referred to as roots. The aggregation and segregation of these root elements in varying proportions, when combined and separated by cosmic forces of love causing attraction and strife causing repulsion, is the basis for forming all things. Socrates, born 470 BC, a pivotal figure who turned philosophy's focus from cosmology to ethics. He developed the Socratic method, elenkos, a form of dialectical inquiry to expose ignorance. He inspired with the words like, "Know thyself. The unexamined life is not worth living."
True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing.
The only thing I know is that I know nothing. He wrote nothing himself, but is known through the works of his students Plato and Xenophon. Plato, the illustrious student of Socrates, developed a comprehensive philosophical system, famously called the theory of forms or ideas. According to this dualistic system, he posted a realm of perfect eternal archetypes as true reality, grasped only by reason, and another apparent world of material objects, grasped only by the senses as an imperfect reflection of these perfect archetypes.
The world we perceive through our senses is not the real world, but only a shadow, an imitation of the real world.
Plato is famous for the allegory of the cave found in his work The Republic. Here he describes the experience of prisoners chained in a cave who perceive shadows on a wall as reality. So here's the story. Prisoners are chained in a cave since birth, facing a wall where shadows are cast by objects carried by puppeteers in front of a fire. The prisoners believe these shadows are real and their only form of reality. One prisoner is freed and dragged out of the cave. The prisoner is initially blinded by the fire and then by the sun. He gradually sees the real objects and the sun, which represents the ultimate source of truth and reality. The enlightened prisoner returns to share his newfound knowledge. He finds it difficult to see in the darkness of the cave, and his former companions are hostile, disbelieving him and even plotting to kill him. So what is the meaning and symbolism of this allegory? The cave represents the ordinary world of sensory experience where people are trapped in ignorance, perceiving mere illusions as reality. The shadows symbolize the superficial reality that people accept without questioning. The escaped prisoner represents the philosopher who embarks on a journey of intellectual discovery and enlightenment. The outside world symbolizes the realm of true reality, the theory of forms where perfect and eternal ideas exist. The sun represents the form of good, the ultimate source of all knowledge and reality. The return symbolizes the philosopher's responsibility to educate others, even though they may be met with resistance or hostility. So what are the key themes in this allegory? Here it highlights the difference between superficial appearances and deeper truth. It illustrates the challenging process of education and how it can transform one's understanding of reality. Plato suggests that those who attain wisdom have a moral obligation to try to enlighten others. The story warns that people often resist new ideas and the truth, especially when it challenges their deeply held belief. Some of the key texts that Plato produced during his time was the Republic, the Phaedo, and the Symposium. Aristotle, born 384 BC, a student of Plato, widely recognized as a father of logic, a polymath who made foundational contributions to nearly every field of knowledge. He's widely known to have rejected Plato's separate world of forms. He based his teachings on hylomorphism,
Hylomorphism posits that all things are a compound of matter and form. Matter is the potentiality, form is the actuality.
Each physical substance is a combination of matter and form. Matter is the material from which something is made of. For example, the wood of a chair is its matter. Form is the essence or the defining characteristics that make the substance what it is. The form of wood is what makes it a chair rather than just a pile of wood. He further posted on the four causes using the example of a wooden chair here: matter as the material cause, wood in this example, form as the design cause, the shape of the chair, agent as the efficient cause, the carpenter or the tools used in building this chair, and the purpose as the final purpose, the chair used to be seated or being comfortable. Democritus, born in the 4th century BC, forwarded an atomist philosophy along with his teacher Leucippus. According to Democritus, only two things existed in reality: atoms and the void. Atoms were indivisible, eternal, and indestructible particles that differed in size, shape, order, and arrangement. Atoms are uniformly dense and incompressible, as they entirely fill the space they occupy. The void was the infinite empty space in which these atoms moved and collided, forming all matter and changes in the world. The void, along with the motion and the collision of atoms, explains how physical phenomena like change and formation occur. Democritus argued that everything we perceive, from stars to stones, is a simple, complex arrangement of these atoms moving in the void. He believed that sensory qualities like taste or temperature are not inherent realities, but a result of how our senses interpret different configurations and combinations of these atoms. Epicurus, born 341 BC, founded the garden, based his physics on Democritus's atomism, describing reality made of matter and void. According to Epicurus, what is pleasurable is morally good, and what is painful is morally evil. He described pleasure as the absence of suffering and taught the goal of life is a modest, sustainable pleasure, freedom from pain and mental disturbance. Zeno of Citium, born in the year 334 BC, was a Hellenistic philosopher from Citium. His philosophy is classified as a materialist monism. He was also the founder of the Stoic school of philosophy, which he taught in Athens from about 300 BC. Stoicism laid great emphasis on goodness and peace of mind gained from living a life of virtue in accordance with nature. The universe is God, a divine reasoning entity where all parts belong to the whole. The divine artisanal fire is the basis for all activity in the universe. The primary substance comes from fire, passes through the stage of air, and then becomes water. The thicker portion becomes earth, and the thinner portion becomes air again, and then rarefying back into fire. Individual souls are part of the same fire as the world soul of the universe. It proved very popular and flourished as one of the major schools of philosophy from the Hellenistic period through to the Roman era, and enjoyed revivals in the Renaissance and Neo-Stoicism, and in the current era as modern Stoicism. To understand a major shift in philosophy, we need to look at the world of Plato and Aristotle in the 4th century BC. Their grand ideas came from the confident, self-governing city-state of Athens. They believed that a person could only live a good life within a well-ordered community. So their philosophy was all about designing the ideal state. Their central question was, how can we rationally build a perfect society? But then the world was completely turned upside down by the conquests of Alexander the Great. The old system of independent city-states was shattered and replaced by vast multicultural and impersonal empires. People went from being active citizens in a small community to being subjects of a distant king. They lost their sense of political power and control. This huge change in the world led to a huge change in philosophy. The new schools that emerged, like the Stoics, the Epicureans, and the Skeptics, all made a dramatic turn inward. Their central question was no longer, what is the ideal state? It became, how can I, as an individual, find inner peace and well-being in a chaotic and unpredictable world? The goal shifted from political reform to achieving personal tranquility. The Epicureans, for example, said you should retreat from chaotic public world and find happiness in a small private community of friends. The Stoics taught the true freedom wasn't in politics, but in mastering your inner world. If you could control your judgments and desires, you could be at peace no matter what was happening on the outside. So this shift from political philosophy to a more personal, almost therapeutic type of ethics wasn't just an intellectual pivot. It was a direct and necessary response to a world where people felt they had lost their political power and needed to find a new way to live a good life. I hope this content was beneficial to you. Thank you for watching this video. Please do like, share your comments, subscribe for more content like this.